When did you witness someone's large ego get absolutely flattened? My boyfriend manipulated me into doing things I didn't want to do. He made all the decisions, like where we ate or which movie we watched, but soon his control started to limit my freedom. I couldn't go out with my friends without hearing him say, "If they're more important to you than me, go out, I don't care." It always made me feel guilty, so I just stayed over at his place, and he'd say, "I'm so glad you're not abandoning me like everyone else." He'd tell me I didn't need anyone but him, and I believed him, which allowed him to isolate me from everyone. I even told him that I wouldn't do things he didn't approve of, like wearing shorts outside, because he always thought they might attract the wrong kind of attention. He said he finally saw me as a high-value woman and even bought me a pair of jeans as a reward. He always made me feel special and accomplished, until he told me to cut my hair. I had taken a long time to grow it out and it reached all the way down to my waist. It gave me confidence, so I couldn't imagine losing that feeling. When I told him that I didn't want to, he told me that he loved short hair and couldn't love me properly if I had long hair. He asked if I wanted him to fall out of love with me, and when I said no, he said he was glad because he didn't want to lose me. That night, he put a bowl on my head to cut my hair, and I had to stop the urge to cry the entire time. After, he hugged me and said that I looked more sophisticated, instead of a slut. I could never get used to my short hair from then on, since I looked like Dora, but my boyfriend helped me by reassuring me that I was pretty and would run his hands through my hair. Over time I got used to it by avoiding mirrors entirely, but just when I was starting to be fine, my boyfriend said he loved women with curves like Rihanna, and wanted me to gain weight. I asked what was wrong with my body, and he replied that I was too bony and I'd snap like a wishbone. He asked me to put more meat on my bones, and without getting my opinion on it, he'd cook food and watch me eat. It wasn't long before my thighs got so big they rubbed against each other and my stomach weighed a ton. Even my haircut made my round face stick out. I actually felt more like a fat Lord Farquaad than Rihanna. None of it felt right, and I was so insecure. It didn't help that every time we went out, men would call me Gorlock the Destroyer, and women would say that I needed to get on Ozempic. My boyfriend, on the other hand, said that I was much softer and everyone else was too shallow to see how perfect I was. I believed him, until I went to the grocery store and ran into one of my old friends. Her mouth dropped when she saw me and said she almost didn't recognize me. Hearing that from a friend hit a nerve and it made me sob. She tried to console me and we ended up at her place. I told her everything, from how my boyfriend made me feel special and how he was the only one who cared for me, but he turned me into someone I didn't like and I had zero confidence left. When I finished telling her everything, she said he was making me feel like I needed him because that's the only way he felt powerful, and that he probably liked that he could stand next to me and feel better about himself. Her words made me realize that my boyfriend was just using me to inflate his fragile ego. She told me that I had to take control of my life again, but I didn't know how. She looked at me up and down and it made me feel so self-conscious I tugged at my shirt to hide my rolls. She adjusted my hair and said that I could try beach waves because the texture and volume could frame my face better. Then she noticed I was tugging my shirt and said that since my weight made me insecure, things like Elite exist, so I should take the pills to reduce my cravings. Then pointed out that I should exercise too and suggested Rosie Graham's 30-day workout challenge because she did it to maintain her figure. I thanked her for help and for genuinely caring about me. She hugged me, saying that she would be here for me if I needed anything. The next couple of weeks were rough because the Elite were curbing my appetite and my boyfriend noticed I wasn't eating a lot. He said that he didn't want me to starve myself, and I had to reassure him that I wasn't. As I worked out and took the Elite in, I could see my body becoming slimmer and my hair growing faster too because of the collagen in the pills. I was slowly regaining the confidence I had lost and knew I would start to feel like myself again. Though, my boyfriend wasn't happy about that. He made comments like, "You looked better before and why are you trying to change?" I could tell he was angry by the way he'd raise his voice, but he kept saying he was worried about me. However, the more weight I dropped, the more his anger started to show. Whenever people complimented me on the streets, he'd accuse me of sleeping around the block because that's the only way everyone was suddenly friendlier with me. He was even pissed when I got the confidence to finally look at myself in the mirror again. So whenever he caught me smiling at my reflection or checking my body out, he'd say that I was being narcissistic. I was loving how mad he was getting now that he didn't have any power over me. It just meant he was a boy who couldn't stand that I wasn't codependent to him. However, he wasn't ready to give up, so he suggested a beach date. Before, I would have panicked, but now I wasn't afraid to show off my body. He looked shocked when I accepted, but I also saw him smirk. When we got to the beach, I took my clothes off and revealed my bikini. Taking the Elite and working out prepared me for this very moment. I wasn't even surprised when some guys looked at me. My boyfriend noticed and quickly wrapped a towel around me, asking why I was dressed like that. I told him that it was normal to wear a bikini to the beach, but he said I was using that as an excuse to be a slut. He asked me which of the men at the beach I was planning on sleeping with and I laughed. He then gave me $5 and said I had to go buy a hoodie at the gift shop. I knew that was just his attempt to make me feel bad about myself, so I didn't let it get to me, because I didn't lose 20 pounds just to let him control my body again. Instead, I told him he was insecure and the only way he could feel good about himself was to tear me down. He was shocked, but then laughed and said he'd do it again because I would never be anyone without him. I was so annoyed at him I just grabbed my things and walked away. Luckily he didn't follow me because in his eyes he was sure that I'd come crawling back, but I headed for my car and left him stranded at the beach instead. I blocked him on everything too so that I never had to hear from him ever again. Since he also knew where I lived, I asked my friend if I could stay with her until everything died down. Thankfully she said yes, so I went to her place. To this day I don't know what happened to him and I don't care. I just cared that I was finally free from him. Even if I didn't have really long hair yet and I could still lose a couple more pounds, I knew that if I just continued taking the Elite and working out I could definitely get back to my old self, maybe an even better version, without my man-baby boyfriend.